The great Canadian composer R. Murray Schafer once wrote, "Human beings do not have earlids. We do not have a way of blocking out sounds in the way the eyelids provide a mechanism to block out light and visual image. So we take everything in, and the way we don't go crazy with the number of sounds is that we teach ourselves not to pay attention. So here's an exercise for you, an exercise in paying attention. Could you sit quietly in some spot of your choosing, whether indoors or outdoors, close your eyes, and for 2 minutes, simply listen to the world. Hear and begin to categorize the sounds that are present there for you. You might ask yourself, for example, how many of those sounds happen all the time? How many are habitual? The hum of your air conditioner or the 60-cycle hum of a light bulb, or perhaps the sound of a freeway nearby. And how many of those sounds are new, are aperiodic, come and go, perhaps signify a momentary change in your environment? Now, think about the way those sounds relate to one another. Do they interrupt each other? Do they build upon one another? Does one seem to resonate with another? And then realize that the analysis that you're doing of your acoustical world right then and there is the same kind of analysis that a musician or a music lover might make about music. In other words, you can hear in a musical context the way sounds either resonate or interrupt one another, the way one thing leads to or fractures off from another. And by listening to your natural world in this meditative way, you can prepare yourself to build a linkage between the outside world and the inside world of the concert hall. What the modern concert hall has done, and you have to realize that concert halls have really been a part of our lives for not much more than 150 years. I mean, a building built for the specific purpose of housing music is a relatively recent thing. And that concert hall has insulation. It keeps the outside sounds from coming in, and therefore it keeps the music from being polluted or toxified by noise. But it also keeps the inside sounds from getting out, because you have to be able to sell tickets. If you could hear a concert from the outside simply by walking by, it devalues the commercial value of music. But that's a relatively new thing. And you can hear the sounds of music and classical music all over the place. All you have to do is listen to the first movement of the Beethoven 7th Symphony, and you're listening to horses gallop. You know, I was wondering, I conducted the Beethoven 7th, and my wife rides horses, and I was kind of agonizing over slight variations in tempo, and I found myself one day watching her ride and thinking, well, I don't have to wonder about the tempo of this. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the horses telling me how fast to play the Beethoven 7th Symphony. So there was a time, I think, where there was greater kinship between the sounds of the world and the sounds of music. I always wondered, when I took that walk, one of the things I was trying to prove was whether or not a musician has special leverage on the sounds of the outside world. John Cage welcomed sounds into the concert hall. So that idea of using natural sound and somehow considering natural sound as music was not particularly new. But what I wondered was, as a percussionist who studied noises and studied the way noises were organized, did I have any special leverage on understanding the outside world? Was there some way in which, for example, a bed of irrigators in a truck farm could, using the experiences that I had with the music of Yanis Xenakis, make some kind of sense? And it was fascinating how, over the course of that walk, the world outside and the world inside, the world of my musical life inside my mind and the world of the environmental sounds outside of my mind started to merge. There's one thing I'd also like to say, which is that I spent 2 weeks, this was a vacation, it was a fantastic vacation, in the rainforest of Costa Rica, in an eco-reserve, where for 2 weeks I didn't hear the sound of a machine. Not a phone, not an alarm clock, not a walkie-talkie, not a lawn mower or leaf blower or anything. And I found at the end of those 2 weeks that my aural acuity was so much more sensitive than it was when I started. So that, for example, my spatial sense was also quite sensitive. I could tell which direction the monkeys were coming from on a given day. I could hear the rain fall on the corrugated leaves of a plant to the right of the balcony that sounded quite different from another kind of plant to the left. And that sensitivity dawned on me as those 2 weeks advanced. So I think a challenge for all of us would be to find a way to, first of all, recognize the amount of noise we unwillingly take in every day, and to find a way, as a kind of act of meditation, to strip it away.